What if I told you a simple 5-minute activity could stop disruptive student behavior in its tracks? And what if I told you this activity is so easy and simple to implement, you could just do it seamlessly in your classroom routine and it takes less than 10 minutes to prep and put together? My name is Catherine Barker, and today we're going to be talking about a very simple but very powerful tool called Classroom Rules. Now, I probably know what you're thinking. You're thinking, easy, 101. I got that, Catherine. I've posted my rules. We've reviewed them. We've gone over them. No need to go on. Move on to the next thing. I got it. I want you to just stick with me for a second because I have a unique twist on Classroom Rules that I'd love to share with you and I think really could be a game changer for your classroom management systems and really help turning around student behavior. Before we dive in, let's just talk about why rules are important. Maybe you don't have rules posted or you don't really use them. Let's just talk about why we need rules in the first place. So our kiddos need clear expectations defined for them. We need to show and model the behavior that we want to see, what's appropriate, what's okay, and what is the positive behavior that we want to see. So rules are very important so kiddos know what they're working towards, right? Otherwise, it's just kind of utter chaos, and that is not what we want at all. I really want you to think of Classroom Rules as really the foundation of your classroom management behavior systems, and everything is really built upon your rules, and that's why it's so important that we get this right. So in this video, I'm going to share my 3 tips with you on how to best use Classroom Rules in your kindergarten classroom. So we're going to talk about what your rules should look like. We're going to talk about using the call and response method. And then we're also going to be talking about how and why you should be reviewing your rules on a daily basis. Okay, so let's talk about the designing of our classroom rules. So what do we want them to look like? So first of all, we want to make sure that it has a visual. So whatever the rule says, maybe it's raise your hand to talk. You want a picture of a kiddo, a clip art, whatever it is, somebody raising their hand. So visuals are so powerful in kindergarten and it just helps it really stick for those kiddos. And a lot of our kiddos can't read yet, right? So they need that visual picture to see the behavior that they're working towards or that the behavior that you're asking, the expectation that you're asking for. We also want to make sure that it's kinder-friendly lingo. So very basic, simple, right? Raise your hand to talk. And we also want to make sure that language is positive, not negative. So what do I mean by that? So you can say no running, no hitting your friends. That would be more negative. Positive language would look more like this. Use walking feet or use helpful hands. Kids just do better when they see the behavior they're working towards versus what they're avoiding or should be staying away from. Another common issue that I see is there are too many rules, right? So our kiddos are only 5, so we don't want to have 20 rules posted, or even, I would say no more than 5. Just 5 simple rules that you can kind of go over that are really quick, easy, simple, and really kind of think about what is most important to you. What behavior do you want to see in your classroom? What is most important to you? That's what you want to think of as you're designing and creating your rules. The other thing that we want to make sure is that we're posting our rules in a place where it's accessible, right? We want the kids to be able to see them, because if they're tucked away in a corner, they can't really see them and doesn't really stick in their brain. And we want to be able to access them because remember we talked about later on, we're going to talk about how we want to be reviewing them on an almost daily basis. So you want to make sure that your rules are posted in an easy to access place and that kiddos can see them very, very easily. Okay, so number 2, we're going to talk about the call and response method. So when you're going over your classroom rules, so you have them posted, you have the pictures, you are using kinder-friendly language, it's positive, it's posted and it's easy to see and get to. Now you're going to have all your kiddos, I like to do it on the rug, they're all standing. I like a pointer, you're gonna point to the first rule. and you're going to say rule number 1. First, you're going to do all this chorally, but later we'll move into a more call and response. So first you're going to say, point to it, say rule number 1, and have the kids say it with you. Rule number 1, raise your hand to talk. So 2 things there. We're doing it chorally, and we're going to have a gesture with each rule. So that just helps it stick with them. They're doing total physical response. They're looking at the rule, you're pointing at it, so they're looking at it, they're saying it and hearing it, and then they're doing a gesture with it, which just makes it stick so much better. So we want to make sure that we're doing that total physical response and a gesture with each rule. So then we'll move on to a more call and response later on. The more you practice, the more you review them. You'll just say rule number 1, and the kids will say, raise your hand to talk. Rule number 2, follow directions quickly. Whatever your rules are, just make sure it's a fun little simple gesture to go with it. And then practice them in a call and response method. And the third thing, you wanna go over your rules on a daily basis. I know you're probably thinking that's pretty excessive. At the beginning of the year, we really do wanna do it on a daily basis. I would say probably for the first month, maybe 6 weeks even, just to really make it stick. After that, they probably don't need to be reviewed often. I always like to do it whenever I have a sub, that the sub always reviews the rules with the kiddos, just so they can remember it. It can kind of help them go, oh yeah, that's right, these are the rules. Same expectations for the sub as it is for Mrs. Barker. So it's helpful to review it with a sub. It's also really helpful to review them when you're having behavior issues or the class overall is just really struggling, or a lot of times even when you come back from break, right? They kind of forget, it kind of falls out of their head. So you come back, let's review our rules, and it doesn't have to just be one day. If you feel like you need to do it every day for the next week after break, do it, or 2 weeks, whatever it looks like. But at the beginning especially, we really want to review them every day. Why do we want to do this? So really we want the rules to be memorized. We want our kiddos to be able to memorize them. And let me tell you why that's important. So fun little story. So one day my class was in the library, right? We did every Wednesday, we would go to the library, and the librarian was reading a story. And in the middle of it, she asked a question, and all my kids started talking out. Like they all started shouting and yelling out and blah, 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 talking over each other. And all I had to say was rule number 1. And all my kids chorally knew. They all said it at the same time. Raise your hand to talk. The whole class went silent. They started raising their hands. Boom, just like that. I didn't have to yell. I didn't have to get frustrated. Nothing. The kids knew, oh yeah, that's right. It's just a simple reminder. Oh yeah, that's right. Rule number 1, raise your hand to talk. That is why you review your rules every day, for as long as it takes to get them memorized. We want the kids to memorize them, so those days when they kind of forget the rules, you just pull it out of your pocket, they do the choral call and response, and everybody's back on track. And that's the power of reviewing your classroom rules on a daily basis. So let's do a quick recap of everything we talked about. So we want to make sure that our rules are appropriate for our kinder kiddos, right? So we want to make sure they're posted in an appropriate place, that they have visuals with them, that it's kinder-friendly lingo, that it's positive language, and it's no more than 5 rules. We want to make sure we're using the call and response method along with gestures with our rules, and that we're reviewing our rules every single day until our kids have them memorized. And if they forget, we go back and we review them. I would recommend that you are reviewing your rules all throughout the year, because we just kind of forget them, right? So if our kids are struggling, bring them back to the carpet. Okay, let's go back over our rules, kiddos. What is it? What's rule number 1? What's rule number 2? So now you know how to leverage your classroom rules to make your classroom that much more effective and that much more efficient and running like a well-oiled machine, right? And so all the kiddos know what to do, and you can just kick back and know they got this. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it helpful or useful, please be sure to like and subscribe, and be on the lookout for the next video. Until then, happy teaching.